The housing market is so bad in the United States. How bad is it? It's so bad, even Harvard University has figured it out. Uh, I was just, amused to see a report by Harvard University on the status of the housing market. And, outside of their time on gender studies and harassing Jewish students over nonsense, somehow Harvard found time to take a look at what is almost the biggest industry in America. Housing is $55 trillion of worth in America, just below all the stock market instruments all put together at about 62 trillion. So somehow they found some time to talk about the American dream. Of course, most of Harvard isn't American. That's part of the problem. And they put together an analysis of what's going on in the market. I just found it fascinating to see that the solutions, the problems and the causes are obvious. The solutions are equally obvious. Let's take a look at it. So if you take a look at their report, and I've excerpted it here, you can jump on. One thing you'll notice is in the housing market of late is kind of hidden in there. Well, let me go back just a little bit. I'm going to quote to you kind of their executive summary if I can, because I think this just kind of covers all the points. In 2025, housing and housing markets face an ever more challenging environment. High home prices, and elevated interest rates, I would say artificially so, reduced home buying to its lowest level since the mid-1990s. So we have less homes bought now than back in like 1995. And increases in insurance premiums and property taxes have heightened financial stress on homeowners and landlords. And despite an abundance of new apartments, because they are being built, high rents have still left more people than ever cost burden and have contributed to a rise in homelessness. I don't know if that's really true. I don't know if that's really the cause, but that's what they want you to believe. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Moreover, unprecedented destruction from wildfires in California, we just burn houses down because we're so stupid, highlighted the growing threat to housing stock and climate-related disasters. So don't think that the mayor didn't put water in the fire hydrants caused houses to burn. It was climate-related, according to Harvard. At the same time, financial housing support is lessening, creating uncertainty and an economic uncertain downturn. So if only we took more taxpayer money and blew it in housing programs that haven't worked for 30 years, according to Harvard, that would solve the problem. So if you look at Harvard being kind of the summary of the ruling class in America, they want to blame it on some mysterious thing. There's less houses. They won't allow us to build them. They burned down because of climate change, not because we don't have firemen or because we don't have fire trucks or we don't have water in the fire reservoirs. And homelessness is because the housing prices are too expensive after not building them and burning them down, not because we import people from around the world who have no ability to participate in our market. So that's the Harvard study. But if you go into the details, they always leave clues as to what's really going on, so because they can't help it. So here's an example. Look at housing formations. So one of the things that's happened is with the housing prices shooting up so much and housing being unaffordable, less family units are being formed. Well, it makes sense. The American dream is to have a house, raise your family in it. If you don't have a family, why not live in a one-bedroom apartment over some train tracks, right? That's what's happening in America today. And then if you go a little further in the report, they show even more that we have these decades of huge immigration. I think probably understated the amount of immigration, and huge increases, particularly during the COVID period, the last 4 years. And as a result, is crushing the formation of new housing units, meaning people don't believe they can get married and raise families on one income like they used to. Well, they can't, because the wages are being depressed by all the competition. We've outsourced so many of the manufacturing jobs. And then the resources that we have in state and local governments go to help illegal immigrants, not helping local citizens. Well, all that is factual. And as a result, less people say, hey, I want to raise a family, let's buy a house and get started. And Harvard's somehow mystified by that being the fact. I don't know, they're pretty smart people or they're not so smart people. Now, to go along with that, my alma mater, USC, again, not the brightest, not the sharpest knives in the drawer, put out their housing report, had tipped to one of my favorite readers, Shiva, and the USC Price School of Public Policy, people who get paid to do nothing in society. Housing demand increases despite population declines. That's interesting. So the population's going down, but the housing demand goes up. Well, that's because we're importing people who can't afford houses. The people are being pushed out the door, and so the housing demand for the remaining houses that aren't burned down goes up. So again, it's the same kind of story where they act as though they're mystified. But when you look at their key statistics or their key findings, I found it fascinating. Look at their key findings. Housing production in the county has declined to 45%. Homeownership. 45%, the lowest level in more than 50 years. So in LA County, we have failed at the basic dream of people being able to buy houses. Now, they have to throw in the race baiting. Homeownership among black households declined more than any other racial group. And say they want you to think it's because somehow people are discriminating more than they were in the past. That's not the case. Unfortunately, blacks are the subject of bad education systems in LAUSD and are not equipped to compete with illegal immigrant labor coming here, and their wages as a result have been crushed. And then here's another one. More than 90% of renters pay more than 30% of their income on rent and utilities are related. And then the last thing I wanted to throw in is the vast majority of unhoused Angelenos live in the county before losing their homes. So they want to tell you that the people who are unhoused lived here and lost their homes, as if the problem is, well, we just don't spend enough money on housing, where the problem really is we don't build enough houses, so the costs could go down and people could afford more. So again, these are the favorite of the ruling class. Let's get people riled up about race, which has nothing to do with any of the policy. And the homelessness, let's act as though we just need to spend more government money. We need to take more tax dollars and raise more tax revenue, chase more people out, and then we'll spend that money on the homeless people. That's what USC wants you to do. And it was interesting. They had a housing conference near me recently, and I saw the 5 people on the panel. None were in the business of building houses or selling houses, so they're never going to figure out what the problem is. So there you go. That's USC, my alma mater. Oops, I didn't put that up. That's USC, my alma mater, and that's their take on what's happening in the housing market and why it's just a mystery. It's just a mystery why housing prices are higher. Because we don't build houses, and they have the numbers right in front of them. It's a mystery why people can't afford houses. We're not forming households like we used to form anymore. And so all these are mysteries to colleges, but to those of us in business every day, we see the actual reality, which is it's right in front of us. And the solutions, therefore, are also right in front of us. Build more houses, push down artificially high interest rates, and stop bringing in competition from around the world that come here without being equipped and need resources. Let's spend the resources we have on helping people who are here and struggling. Okay, so let's take a look at the general market overall. Interest rates continue to inch down slightly. We've had this big political battle nationally about interest rates and whether they were too high or not too high. And all of a sudden, magically, 1 million jobs that we thought we had, and there were reasons why we'd keep rates up, disappear. So rates can go down a little bit, and they did. They closed at the lowest in 11 months, 6.27. And I can tell you right away, I have buyers who are either in escrow or getting into escrow who are more competitive now because the drop in rates is having an immediate effect. Inventory is still about the same. We declined in July, unusual. We're still at an all-time low of inventory other than COVID era. And so the answer obviously is we just don't build enough houses, and all of our universities and government officials want to pretend as though there's some other answer, but obviously the numbers don't lie. The inventory is still at record lows. When our population's gone up, we should have more houses, not less houses, and yet we don't have that. Locally in Los Angeles, our market had been tilting towards a balance from a seller's market and tilted back up towards the seller side slightly. We're at 35. We've been at 34 previously. So again, this means that we're almost balanced, but in the favor of sellers, and that's my sense as a realtor. In most markets, that's not true in all neighborhoods. You need to get an analysis on your particular neighborhood if you have questions, but in general, LA County, the market overall is a general seller's market slightly. Interest rates dropped, and all of a sudden we see increased activity. Here's Housing Wire noting that. Lower mortgage rates are impacting housing demand more noticeably, and in 5 of the last 6 weeks, we have positive growth in purchase applications, meaning more buyers getting into the market as a result of these lower rates. And that makes sense. As I said before, lower rates make the house worth more. And if the sellers don't change the price that day, then buyers have a chance to benefit from that. And that's why the interest rates are so critical to the overall health of our economy, particularly the middle class. Okay, here's a head-scratching news article. Compass hires the attorney who the only thing I know about him is he lost the lawsuit that really is the attempted destruction of the National Association of Realtors and realtors across the country. He was the attorney for Cooley LLP, it's a big law firm, and he's hired by Compass. Now, Compass, in the past, I've described how they are, I think, frivolously suing Zillow, and in their lawsuits defaming companies like my company, eXp Realty. So their legal strategy is questionable from where I sit, not being a professional. And then they hire a guy whose, I think, claim to fame is he lost the case that has had the most impact on the industry in my entire career. And one thing I've learned about attorneys is the law is written to benefit attorneys. It's written by attorneys for attorneys. The only people who win in lawsuits are attorneys. Both sides get paid, almost always. Both guys get their expenses covered. It's just the customers or whoever gets financially destroyed. And so the Compass hires this guy. It's just an interesting, I think, piece of trivia. I'm sure he's a fine attorney. He just lost this big case, and now he's working for a company that I think is just a menace to our industry. But okay, good luck with that, and I wish him the best. Also, interesting news I found was AP, and this is the real estate industry news in a nutshell. Shortage of home buyers forces many home sellers to lower prices or walk away. Shortage of home buyers. Now, think about this. If you're in a McDonald's and nobody's walking in the door, you realize your ads didn't work, your pricing's too high. You either run more ads, you lower your prices, and then more people come in the door. But somehow in the real estate industry, we're supposed to act as though buyers are like this ephemeral, magical pixie dust that comes or goes. No. The reason why there were enough buyers is at that price, people were willing to buy those houses. Now, you look at the statistics nationally, home prices have held and increased about 1% per year, lower than the normal 3 or 4%, but 1% per year in the last 12 months. So there's enough buyers for the market to continue the price. What there aren't enough are enough houses, because we don't build enough. We've covered this already. But my point is, to say that there's a shortage of buyers, that's not the case. There's exactly one buyer for every house that closed, escrow. I mean, there might be one buying entity, let's say. But this is the lack of education our industry creates. And this is AP News. They used to be a journalistic organization. Now it's just clickbait and an entertainment business. That's why you can't rely on the news, because it's not designed to educate. It's designed to entertain you and get you to buy ads on their websites. And everything they do, everything is either entertainment or clickbait. And an idea, there's a shortage of buyers. It's just stupid. It's just treating you as the reader as stupid. I think that's the thing that insults me the most, is it treats my customers and me as though we're all stupid. I'm not stupid. And I do this podcast every week to hope that you're not. So what do you think? A lot going on in the real estate market. My business is doing real well. I know that people around me are excited with the increase in activity based on the lower rates. What do you see? If you have questions, please ask them. Reach out if I can help. I'm at LAProbate on social media. And as always, make today your best day ever. Thanks so much.